All right. So today we're going to talk about something pretty cool. We're going to talk about the ancient Japanese secret to living longer and healthier. This is, in my estimation, a lot of fun. It's something that's different for most people. Most people haven't heard of this, but it's been working for a people who have been outliving us in the West for a very long time. But before we get into that, we have to do a couple of things. First of all, uh, the split round summer sale is going on right now. And remember, this is the solution for those of you who want to go away and who want to lose weight before you go away, who want to lose weight when you come back, and who want to not gain too much while you're away. Now, of course, in order to do that, I have to come with you on your vacation to Europe or the Caribbean. So I hope that's okay with you. Of course, that's not true. All right. The split rounds is something that people really, really like because it's a rare thing in today's world. It's a true solution. And it's practically a BOGO. It's practically a buy one, get one sale. So reach out to me if you're interested in this. Be aware, we said that the first 8 people were going to get signed books. My book is called Keeping It Off. It's also called Thin Forever. It depends if it's digital or if it's a printed version. But it it really teaches the principles of keeping the weight off. It's also a solution, of course, if it's followed, but those are no longer available. The sale is still going on, so you can take advantage of that. You will not be getting a book, unfortunately. You're welcome to purchase one. It will be well worth your time and your money. Now, let's get into another thing that we have to mention, which is congratulations, New York Knickerbockers. At long last, after 53 years, they are the champions of the basketball world. It brought people in the New York area together like few things ever have. I hope that lasts. I don't think it will, but I'm very hopeful that that will last. There's a lot of love in the air right now. And as someone once said, all you need is love. Okay, let's move on from that and get into our topic for today because I want to teach you this phrase. It's Japanese, it's about 300 years old, and it might be one of the simplest, most useful pieces of health advice you'll ever hear. And the phrase is Hara Hachi Bu. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. All right. And it translates roughly to eat until you're 8 parts out of 10 full. Very simply, eat until you're about 80% full. And this is not a new fad. It's not something that I cooked up or some wellness influencer cooked up last year. It comes from Okinawa, Japan, which is, as we all know, the birthplace of Miyagi, of Mr. Miyagi. And Mr. Miyagi knew everything. So we have to listen to this. Mr. Miyagi's birthplace, Okinawa, is one of the famous blue zones in the world. And if you're not familiar with blue zones, what blue zones are is they're areas in the world, concentrations where people are healthier and live longer. And there's several of them. I want to say there's 5 or 7. Okinawa is one, Ikaria, Greece is another, Loma Linda, California is another. The others aren't coming to me right away, but these areas have been studied. Researchers have tried to figure out why people live longer in these areas. And it's generally a combination of how they're eating and what their lifestyles are, and also their family connections and a bunch of different things. But one of the things that works in Okinawa, Japan, is this idea of Hara Hachi Bu that's been in existence for at least 300 years. And Okinawa is a region that contains the highest concentration of people living past 100 years of age. And these guys are in good shape. I mean, they could kick our butts at 107. So this is why Hara Hachi is having a real moment right now, because it showed up in a Netflix documentary on the Blue Zones. Dietitians have been talking about it this year again as one of the simplest, most evidence-based habits for weight management, for longevity. And today I want to talk about where it comes from, why it actually works, right? Including the biology behind it, and why for a lot of people it doesn't work also, or at least not as easily as it sounds. So there's a catch, and the catch connects directly to things that I've been speaking on of late. Now, the phrase Hara Hachi Bu, which sometimes is said as Hara Hachi Bun Mi, is Confucian in origin. And the most literal translation is stomach 8 parts, right? Again, we're talking 8 parts out of 10. And it traces back to a book published around 1713 by a Japanese philosopher. And I'm not going to get into the names, that'll only add confusion. But he wrote a book which roughly translates to Lessons on Nourishing Life. And the core teaching was about listening to what your body tells you. Sound familiar? And the specific instruction that he discovered was to eat until you're about 80% full. Stop eating at that point. Not a very American idea, right? We generally eat until we're about 140% full. But for what it's worth, the gentleman who wrote the book lived to 83. And in that period in Japan, when life was really difficult, the life expectancy was something like half of that. So he was living proof of his own idea. And in Okinawa, this became a cultural habit, and it's been passed down throughout the generations. Elders could be heard saying the phrase out loud before a meal, and it almost turned into a blessing or a reminder. I mean, it just sounds cool to me, to my American ear, right? Before you eat, you say, Hara Hachi Bu. At least that's how I imagine they say it. And the truth is that they only ate about 18 to 1900 calories a day. And that's below the typical Western diet intake. And that helped them maintain excellent health markers and incredible longevity. And there's no calorie counting involved. This is a feel thing. It's not a number thing. And that is kind of a blessing and a curse at the same time. Right? This is not a fad. It's not a media campaign. It's just a phrase. And it's been repeated like a mantra for 300 years in Okinawa, and it tells people to stop a little before they think they should. Now, here's where this gets interesting, because this is not just cultural wisdom. There's real biology behind why it works. And it explains a little bit about why so many of us struggle with portion sizes. It takes roughly 20 minutes for the stretch receptors in your stomach and the hormonal signals related to fullness to actually reach your brain, to actually register as satiety. So think about that for a minute. In your stomach, when you eat, there are these receptors, right? They're kind of like sensors, and they measure stretch. And then that information is kind of sent up to your brain, and hormones kick in and says, listen, you're full now. You don't have to eat more. That's how it's supposed to work. This is what prevents us from eating ourselves to death when that system is working correctly, because it's not always working correctly. But let's consider this for a minute. 20 minutes. Think about that. If you're a fast eater and you eat a meal in 10 minutes, which a lot of us do, you're finished with the food before your brain has even gotten the memo about how much you've eaten. You can easily eat well past fullness, like I said, 120%, 140%, and not even feel it until it's too late. This is when you find yourself moaning and holding your stomach. Now, Hara Hachi works specifically because it builds in a buffer for that delay. If you stop at 80%, a little before you think you're satisfied, by the time the signal catches up, you'll probably land right around true fullness. Not starving, not stuffed, just right. And here's what you need to understand about overeating. Overeating is not free. I mean, besides the fact that it could literally be expensive for your wallet. But there's also a cost to your body. There's a cost on the back end. When you eat past fullness, your digestive system has to work much harder and longer to process that excess food. And some researchers connect this prolonged digestive burden to increased cellular oxidation. Cellular oxidation is essentially cellular aging, right? It's kind of the rusting process that goes on in your body. It causes premature aging. So overeating isn't just about extra calories, it's extra wear and tear on your system. Meal after meal for decades, if your body is working harder meal after meal, that is a stressor, a constant stressor on your body, and that has a long-term consequences. And here's a distinction that matters. Hara Hachi is not a diet. It's not deprivation. It's not telling you what to eat. It's not forbidding any food. It's a stopping point, and it's determined entirely by how you feel. And that matters. A psychologist at the Cleveland Clinic put it well. He said, this approach is particularly useful for people who tend to overeat because it teaches you to fill your stomach only just enough. Not a number that you got from someone else, not part of a plan, a feeling in your body. Now, some of you are probably saying, well, I can't even feel it when I'm full anymore. And that's a real thing. I mean, it's something that we might joke about to each other, right? Like I have no clue when I'm done. I just keep going. But there are real physiological reasons why that happens, again, related to hormones. If your hormonal system is out of whack, there are particular hormones that tell you when you're full. And if those aren't working right, you're not going to get the message that you are in fact full, and you're going to keep eating. And that's why a lot of us become overfull, stuffed. Okay? Now, here's a problem, though. And I think a lot of you already see where I'm going with this. Hara Hachi requires you to feel your fullness before you overshoot it. And if your hormone system is out of whack, but also if you're disconnected from your body, this is what we've been speaking of lately. You're not in communication with your body. You can't tell anything. And that's true on the hormone level, but it's also true just on the sense level. And there's a big fancy word for it. It's called interoception. It's like awareness of your body, of your internal sensing system. If it's been dulled by years of eating in front of screens, by eating too fast, by eating when you're distracted, then that 80% might not register as anything. And you might not feel full until it's gone way past that. And this is why telling someone, okay, just stop at 80% can be useless advice on its own. In other words, it needs some supporting structure around it. It's like telling someone to turn down the volume on a radio that has no knob. The instruction itself assumes a level of body awareness that a lot of people simply don't have anymore. So Hara Hachi Bu isn't a standalone technique. It's kind of like a finish line. The real work is in restoring the ability to feel it in the first place. But that's also the opportunity. See, I want you to think about it like that. There's an opportunity to get back that sense of your body, of how you're feeling, of living in your body, of not being disconnected from it. And that's not necessarily on the level of physiology. That's more on the level of observation, of being present. And now we get into the hippie portion, because it is necessary to observe. Eating is something we sometimes do just unconsciously, reflexively. We didn't always necessarily, and we're probably not supposed to. I'm pretty sure we're not. And this is challenging also because we have all these rituals around eating. You know, if you're watching TV, something like that, that's the most common ritual, right? It's just part of the whole package. And you're really not paying attention to whether or not you're full. You're not paying attention to much. Your attention is on what you're watching, presumably, while you're shoveling in the whatever you're eating. So think about Hara Hachi Bu not as a rule that you follow, although it is that. Think about it as a signal you have to be able to hear. And that requires paying attention. And the good news is that we've been talking about this. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we talked about interoception. The system is trainable. You can get back that sense. For some of you, getting back that sense might be life-changing, might be life-saving. The receiver can come back online. And the practices that can help restore it, things like movement and breathing and eating without screens and slowing down, these are the same things that will make Hara Hachi Bu a usable technique for you. So consider that for a minute. And let's discuss how we can actually put this into practice. All right, let's make it practical and discuss how to use Hara Hachi Bu in a way that works, even if your body awareness is not there just yet. Remember, it can be. So first of all, eat slower on purpose. Remember, the fullness signal takes about 20 minutes to arrive. And so it's very powerful if you could simply extend your meal closer to that window. If you've been eating in 10 minutes your meal, eat it in 20 minutes. Put your fork down between bites. Chew more. If you're with people, talk, enjoy the conversation. The goal is not to torture yourself. It's to give your body time to send the message before the meal is over. Number two, and most people have probably never considered this, right? But this is a smart technique. Pause at the midpoint of the meal. Partway through your meal, not at the end, in the middle, stop consciously for 30 seconds or 60 seconds. Put the fork down. Take a breath. Maybe take a walk, a brief one. Ask, how do I feel right now? Not am I full, but just what do I notice? See, this is the same body check practice that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, but we're applying it specifically to the table, to the meal, as a precursor for Hara Hachi Bu. 3, plate less than you think you want. Now, this sounds really simple. There have been studies about this. This is a different psychological principle entirely. But we tend to eat what's in front of us regardless of hunger. Now, we can get into the reasons why that might be, but most of us, I think, are just conditioned for that. We've been told to finish what's on our plate. You know, we've been rewarded for finishing, and we've been punished for not finishing, sometimes harshly. You better eat what's on your plate. You better finish that. You took it. You better finish it. Right? I mean, there's all kinds of crap that goes around food, and there's so much cultural stuff. And I was told that I need to be able to join the Clean Plate Club, the very prestigious Clean Plate Club that I always wanted to be a member of. But of course, the the entry fee was to develop bad eating habits for life, right? Sometimes I was tasked with cleaning the plates of others, and I was good at it. Damn it. All right. But you can see that if the starting portion is already calibrated a bit lower, then you're working with that plate instead of the large plate, the overstuffed plate. You could always get more if you're genuinely still hungry afterward. But you may become aware of something. You may notice that happens less than you think it might. That as you become more aware, you realize that you are satiated, or that you're 80% full, which is the goal we're going for. All right, 4, eat without the screen. We've said this before, but it bears repeating here. Specifically, if your attention is on something else, if it's on a show, if it's on your phone while you eat, you have almost no chance of catching that 80% signal. The signal might be there, but you're just not available to receive it. So try eating without the screen. I mean, it's so crazy. Our lives are so different now. For those of you who remember an age before screens, back then, TV dinners meant something else entirely. It didn't necessarily mean you were eating in front of the TV or in front of your phone. But now that's what we do. For a lot of us, that's habit. Okay, 5. This is the fun part. Say the phrase. It might sound like a small little nothing thing, but there's something to the tradition of actually saying Hara Hachi boo before a meal, out loud or silently. Now, this isn't the same, but I think there's some overlap between this and praying, saying a prayer over a meal. It's a way to get conscious. It's a way to get present. And in the case of Hara Hachi bu, it's a way to remind yourself, eat till only 80%. I don't know that there are any actual prayers like that in Western traditions. You know, many people say prayers before they eat, and it's generally regarding gratitude, and that is absolutely appropriate. But how about also making a statement about how much we're supposed to eat? So try it before your next meal. Just say it to yourself. I say it out loud. You know, if you're in front of people, they'll probably just say Gesundheit. But say it out loud and see if it changes anything about how you eat. So listen, the bottom line is a man wrote this idea down over 300 years ago. He lived to 83 in an era when most people didn't make it past 40. And an entire region of the world has been quietly outliving the rest of us for generations. And their secret isn't a supplement. It's not one particular superfood. It's a stopping point. And it's a method for knowing when to stop. And all that involves, especially including being in touch with your body, so you do, in fact, have an idea about when to stop. Eat until you're 8 parts full. Leave a little room. Trust that your body will tell you when. If you give it the time, if you put the attention on it, your body will actually say so. So this week, I want you to try just one thing. Pick one meal a day, slow it down, pause in the middle, and see what you notice. And of course, say Hara Hachi bu before you do. You don't need to get it perfect. You just have to try to get in touch with that signal. That's it. All right. So that's it for this week. All right, go Knicks. We want to repeat next year. Don't forget about the split rounds. I hope you're enjoying your summer, and we will be together again next week. Take care.